Hello, welcome to your in-depth horoscope forecast for week commencing the 4th of November for the Sun or the Ascendant. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. This week sees three groupings of energies. There's still the Sun and Mercury, which is tracking backwards in the sign of Scorpio, which is about transformations. We also have Venus and Jupiter in the much more expansive and optimistic Sagittarius. And finally, Saturn and Pluto in the much more orthodox Capricorn. Now, of course, all these influences are going to be interacting with one another. In fact, on the first day, the Sun in Scorpio forges a right angle with the Moon in Aquarius. If there is a situation that you're involved with where there does seem to be an awful lot of politics swirling around, some of it may not be particularly obvious, but you can pick a sense of it up through the prism of Scorpio's energy, which helps us to really sense what's going on beneath the surface. And of course, with Mercury retracing its steps, if we are trying to collaborate or cooperate with anyone who's withholding information, not paying us money that's due, or there are glitches and problems that we don't seem to have any direct control over, then that can be frustrating. But actually, this is a week where Mars and Pluto, so Mars in Libra, is actually still in its right angle with Pluto for pretty well the whole of the week. So it's one of those weeks, if we get so frustrated that we try to push the pace and really drive a solution through, rather than stay much more self-contained, it actually probably could be counterproductive. Because in the second half of this week, ironically, Mars forges a brilliant angle to Jupiter. So it could be that if we can just find the enthusiasm, the passion, and the persuasion in a kind of good way, other people can actually be very responsive. And also the Sun forges a very stabilizing link to Saturn, which means that where we've put the hard work in, the application, and also the perspiration, we could see some very solid rewards starting to show themselves. Now, of course, with Mercury retrograde, there could be those delays. Not everything may go quite at the pace we want, but also Mercury retrograde must be seen as a positive thing sometimes if it helps us to rethink what isn't working very well. So that could be an option this week. So if there is a relationship, even with a financial institution where you don't really feel you're getting the best deal, change it. That could be a positive thing you can do with Mercury retrograde. And also from Friday to Sunday, Mercury, despite the retrograde, forges a beautiful link with Pluto. If this rings a bell, it's because of the retrograde that it's being repeated. But this helps us to penetrate to the core of what's really useful. And I do feel it can be a real help to offset the more difficult energies that Mercury retrograde can bring. The Sun's also forging a beautiful link with Neptune in the second half of this week, and finding the time, the energy or the resources to help someone who's less fortunate could be something that gives us a big lift. There is one other influence I want to tell you about this week that's a bit more obtuse but very important. It does involve Venus, which is now in the very free-spirited Sagittarius, but Venus is in a quincunx with Uranus. If you remember, Mars went through this recently. Now, Venus in Sagittarius is very much about being more in the moment. It's about being experimental, but it's also about the truth, whereas Uranus in Taurus, and Uranus can be very impulsive, just suggests that when it comes to something we desire, whether it's a big ticket item, or if we're planning our Christmas budget, or if we're wanting to treat someone we really like, it is going to be important to try to contain our enthusiasm and not splash out rather more than we can really afford. So it could lead to a little bit of impulsiveness around a relationship or expenditure. Your specific forecast, Cancer, shows the quarter moon in the sign of Aquarius. At the start of this week, comes into conflict with the sun in a very free-spirited, self-expressive area. What does this mean? Well, Aquarius energy is about logic, and just like your sign, Scorpio, is obviously about emotion, about water. So it's possible that you may have to balance some of your more hopeful strands in your situation against the reality of a situation, but particularly around your finances. Or it's possible that in some kind of close alliance, perhaps in a relationship context, you and your partner may want slightly different things, and it could relate to one partner wanting a bit more investment in the playtime in the relationship, socializing, and the other person is more minded to be careful about prudence. But despite this, from Tuesday through to Sunday, there's a gorgeous link between the Sun in Scorpio and also Saturn in your 7th house in Capricorn. Now, Saturn, of course, has been causing some mischief over the last couple of years for you, or certainly making you much more mindful to work at understanding what you really need from relationships, what others expect from you, but also what you're prepared to give. But this angle between Saturn and the Sun suggests that the lessons that you've learnt over this last couple of years can be applied splendidly. So if there is someone that you're getting to know new, whether it's a professional relationship, someone you just really like, that you work with, or in a more romantic context, there is a sense of greater security coming through, which is absolutely delightful. But also, just in a friendship, sociable sense, the Sun's angle to Neptune in the second half of this week could see you take in a movie, go to see a show or a band, and it could prove to be very uplifting. Now, it is true that Mars has been in a tender part of your scope, the sign of Libra, but that's forging a wonderful angle to Jupiter this week. So if you are making any changes to where you live, be it in a structural sense, redecorating, perhaps deciding to work from home, the enterprise of Jupiter, then things can actually go forwards in quite a positive way, which can delight you. The gotcha of this week for us all is Venus's quincunx with Uranus. Uranus is asking you to be much more open-minded about the type of people that you can network with and relate to. May be in the past these weren't your type of people. Venus, on the other hand, could just arouse that side of you that needs to be more conscious of the more conservative way of helping people. So there's a little bit of a conflict between you being pushed to be a bit more open-minded, but at the same time feeling comfortable with it in the way that you relate. But generally, this is a very positive week for you. Thank you so much for joining me for your video. If you'd like to know what 2020 would hold for you beyond your zodiac sign, based on your time, date and place of birth, please see the link beneath this video. If you order your forecast now, you can get 30% off and the rest of 2019 free. But for now, good luck and goodbye.